What's up? What's up? What's up?
Hi guys.
How's everybody doing out there? We're back with another episode of All Things Marriage. We're your hosts, Derek
and Crystal Robinson.
And this week we're going to be talking about
roles and expectations.
Roles and expectations. So first and foremost, as always, we want to give a shout out to all of our followers out there, all of our subscribers, to everyone who's liked, commented, giving us any type of love. We appreciate you. We thank you. We want to say we appreciate all the love.
Yes. So guys, like we said, we're talking about roles and expectations this week. And we left off last week. I mentioned that I felt disrespected because I have to drive sometimes. So, and after having a conversation with some of our friends as well, we thought it would be a good topic to talk about this week, roles and expectations.
Right. So, go ahead and talk about your driving. What you got to say about that?
Well, I don't feel necessarily disrespected, guys. But sometimes I don't like to drive, you know?
Right.
I enjoy driving sometimes. I don't like to drive all the times. You know, as a woman, you know, who wants her husband, you know, her man to drive. And, you know, we could just sit on the other side and take care of whatever we got to take care of. But in our case, I understand why. I drive sometimes. I feel like we do 50-50 of the driving. We do take turns and, you know, say, well, I drove last time. You know, you drive this time. But yeah, so that's just a little reason why I said, you know, I feel disrespected.
I used to drive for a living. I don't like to drive, point blank period. But anyway.
I used to help him drive.
Sometimes. Anyway, roles and expectations.
Yeah.
What does driving have to do with roles and expectations?
Well, driving it's funny that we ended off last week with talking about driving. You know, putting that in, and then we had a conversation with one of our friends, you know, family members, about driving and their expectations of, you know, their partner driving. So we got into this conversation about, you know, I expect this from the man. I feel like the man's role is this. I feel like the woman's role is this. You know, as the male, expect this from my female partner. So we got into that and we were talking. Some interesting stuff came up. Some very interesting stuff came up. One of our friends said that she expects that her man drive all the time. Yeah, all the time. I wouldn't necessarily say that. A lot of people wouldn't necessarily say that. A lot of other people would say, yeah, I prefer, or it just happens like that. You know, I know a bunch of older couples or couples that have been raised by older individuals not necessarily say, I expect my husband to drive all the time when we're together, but it happens to be that way. I rarely see that the female is driving, you know, the male around when they're together.
Right. So, expectations.
Seems like he's stressed, guys.
Gender roles, right? Or not even gender roles, but roles in the relationship.
Right.
To me it's kind of a weird topic to say what's the role, because for me, I mean, a relationship is just that. It's a relationship. It's a working thing that's constantly changing and shifting and twisting and turning. And so to say this is your job in this relationship or this is your role in this relationship is kind of weird to me. I don't like it. I don't. It doesn't work in my mind because hypothetically, if the role or the expectation is that you as the wife or you as the female or whatever the dynamic, you're supposed to cook and you're supposed to clean and you're supposed to keep house, whatever, but then I'm I'm at home all day and you're working all day, not even for lack of a job or whatever. I work at night. You work during the day, whatever. It doesn't seem fair to expect you to be at work all day.
Right.
And then come home and cook just because that's your role. Right. It's, to me, it's a what works for the relationship at that particular time. Right. But at the same time, I mean, we definitely should have expectations, at least going in, right?
I expect you to, clean up behind yourself. I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it.
Sure. There should definitely be reasonable expectations.
Right. No, and I'm not saying it as in I expect you to clean up. Right. But in relationship, I would hope in all relationships, it's kind of like you have kids. You expect them to clean up behind themselves. I expect myself to clean up behind myself. Right. I expect, because when we, in the example of cleaning up behind ourselves, if I'm just, if I cook and I leave everything everywhere, even if you cook tomorrow and I don't clean up behind myself, or we haven't established, okay, let's work together and tackle the dishes together, or somebody else tackles the dishes, then it's unfair for you to come in tomorrow and the dishes aren't clean, and I still expect you to cook.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all about finding balance, right? Yeah. It's all about finding.
I definitely agree with that.
Like I said earlier, what works for your dynamic at this particular point in time, right? And so what worked day one of your relationship, what worked at the dating phase, may not work in the marriage phase. What works in the marriage phase may not work in the dating phase. Right. As what worked at year one of marriage may not work year 5 of marriage.
That's right, because we're growing, we're evolving. I have never seen a person, I don't care how old they are, how young they are, be the same exact person from birth until, that would be terribly wrong.
Right.
But personality wise, they, we grow and evolve. Yeah.
I say all the time, and it's a proven fact, we are the sum total of all of our life's experiences. Right. And so to say that a person doesn't change is to say that they stop experiencing. Yeah. Right. They don't experience anything at all.
Right. Or have feelings.
Or have any feelings.
Or learn or grow. Yeah.
Right. And so similarly, to say that a relationship doesn't change, roles doesn't change in the relationship, is to say that relationship has no experiences. Right. Nothing changes about any of the people involved in the relationship from point A to point B.
And we set ourselves up for failure. Right. Honestly, we do. And a point that I thought about was, we may say, okay, well, these are the things that we're going to do in our relationship to make it easier on the both of us. If you don't like this, I'll take on that role and responsibility. Right. If you don't, and vice versa. But like the vows say, till death do us part, in sickness and health.
For better or for worse.
Right. All of it. And we talked about it later on, how if I expect you to take out the trash, because that's one of the things that he does do here at home. If I expect you to take out the trash every day, or when the trash, is pick up or whatever, and something happens to you, and I'm just so hard pressed on, it's the man's role to take out the trash. I feel like I deserve that you take out the trash. I do X, Y, and Z. When we start doing that, and then something happens in life, whether, you're gone on a business trip, whether, God forbid, you pass away or you get injured, then I'm looking at you like, well, you still my husband. You're supposed to take out the trash. I don't care if you gotta hop on one leg, and it's just like, wait a minute.
Right. You create areas or pockets of unhappiness for no reason, or potential unhappiness. Because I'm gonna tell you now, if I go on a business trip and I'm gone for 2 weeks,
and I just leave the trash there,
and you sit here with 2 weeks worth of trash because I ain't taking out, that's your fault.
That's
on you.
And I will agree with that.
Like, you can, I'm sorry, whatever. And when I get back, Sucks to suck.
Yeah.
The trash.
Because for real, again, that was all of my trash. You've been gone for 2 weeks.
I've been gone for 2 weeks. They ain't got nothing to do with me.
It's honestly like the dishes. Again, if we haven't discussed, okay, well, I'm gonna cook and I want to do this grand meal for you.
Right.
Is there a way that you can, help clean up the dishes, or even just help me in the kitchen? That's a good, honestly, a good couples team building thing.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like it, guys.
She don't.
Oh.
I don't even know why she suggested it. She hated it.
Because something that I don't like or doesn't work for me or us, that doesn't mean it's not going to work for somebody else.
Let me tell you. I'll be like, it'll be my turn to cook. I'm cooking something and I'm just like, hey babe, won't you come in here, help me? Then turn around, she'll be cooking them and it's just like, I'm doing da, and I'm just like, well, you want me to help you? Let me do this. No, you're in the way. And it's just like, what?
I know that you guys are out there. I'm not even gonna say women, because there's some men that do this.
It's not a gender specific thing.
Just get out the way. My husband. There's reasons why I don't want my husband in the kitchen with me, whether he's cooking or I'm cooking.
It's not.
It's gonna take forever because
I like doing things together. Let's season the chicken together. You sprinkle a little salt, I sprinkle a little pepper. We good to go.
And then he comes behind me and sprinkles some more salt because I don't do salt like that, y'all.
But anyway, roles and expectations.
Right.
So roles are fluid, right?
Yes.
Or
I
at
feel
least
like
for
they
us.
should. They definitely should be
Right.
fluid because it's a partnership.
Right, yeah.
It's a partnership.
So at least for us, roles are fluid. Roles are an ever-changing thing.
Right.
What's my role today may not even be my role tomorrow.
Right.
Like it may not even be my role 20 minutes from now.
Right.
That's it's a constant, ever-changing thing. But expectations are a little bit different.
They're a little bit different.
Especially going into a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Expectations are a must.
Right.
I can say, and I'm not gonna say throw out the roles, but be flexible and open-minded when it comes to relationship roles. But then these expectations, I don't see a problem with having hardcore, like strict expectations.
No, I can understand that. I mean, because I expect you to tell me the truth.
Right. There's
no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
Just so long as you know that those expectations may not be met.
Yeah, but no. But you better tell me the truth.
Right. Well, yeah, sure. But I say that because we have to understand that
it's those deal breakers, like you said.
Right, like we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Deal breakers, right? It's those expectations that create or that outline what deal breakers are and aren't, like what deal breakers you have. And understand that just like you going into a relationship, you have your expectations of a partner,
right.
What you want in a partner, what you don't want in a partner,
right.
What you'll tolerate, what you won't tolerate. That other person has expectations as well.
Yeah.
And what we have to be very careful of, we have to be mindful of is you can't project your expectations on a person.
Yeah.
And then not expect or not be willing to accept that being reciprocated.
Yeah.
Because for every like and dislike you have, the other person has a like
just
and a
as many.
dislike.
Yeah.
Really, really good example. Back to the cooking and cleaning thing.
Yeah.
As a man, traditional, gender roles, household roles, whatever, I may expect my partner to cook for me and clean the kitchen and wash the dishes and this and then the third. That may be all fine and good. But then I can't get upset on the flip side when my partner then says, I don't expect to have to ever touch a piece of trash in the house ever. Mm-hmm. I don't expect to have to even drive myself, put gas in the car, or to take the car for maintenance, not work on the car, take the car to the dealer to be worked on. I don't expect to have to do that. I can't get upset if I'm expecting these things from you, for you to expect that back on me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so expectations, while they're good, you have to understand they
work both ways.
They work both ways.
Yeah.
And the important part to it, or the significance in those, is coming to the table, sitting down and discussing those expectations. One, knowing what your expectations are, and then discussing with your partner, what do you expect out of a husband or a wife, out of a boyfriend or a girlfriend?
Needed conversation.
Right. What do you
What does it look like?
What am I expecting out of you? What commonalities do we have with our expectations that should be a cakewalk because we both see it the same way? What differences do we have, and how can we find a working, you know what I'm saying, pattern. A working pattern to
maybe not pattern, but
yeah. But how do we find a working ground or foundation to make this thing work? Can we make it work? Yeah. Like, do my expectations fall short?
Yeah, because I mean, and it's not like, oh, this person is just bad, but if you know, like, the mindset is different. It's in everybody.
Right.
Until you've been together for a while and you know your partner and stuff like that, the mindset is still individual. Exactly. And what I'm used to and what I, agree with, what works for me, and all of this, like I said earlier, the lying thing. I expect the truth. So his expectation may be, or understanding maybe, yes, she expects the truth, but as a husband, I know I can't give you all the truth because it leads to certain behaviors from me. You know what I'm saying? So he expects me to trust him with the full truth and handling it himself for the whole of us.
And let's give a quick example because,
okay,
that almost sound like I expect the truth, but as long as you think it's a good reason, you can lie to me. And it's just like,
not at all.
Right.
I'm gonna find out, guys.
So we were talking to a friend of ours, and a really good example that he gave of that very concept is if I'm really strong with money. I mean, great budgeted. I'm great with budgeting and responsible paying my bills and just money management as a whole. And she's a little bit more frivolous with money and just, Amazon. I see it. Amazon. Boom. And it's just like spend. In order for us to survive financially and be okay in a position of building and growing and progressing financially, it may be necessary for me to withhold money from her. And not just not give her money, but have money set to the side that she doesn't know about. Because I'm trying to sneak and connive and do and whatever, but I understand that if she knows the money is there, then she's going to want to go to Amazon.
Right.
She's going to want to shop on Amazon. She's going to want to go, buy some clothes, whatever the case may be. So for the sake of our household, I withhold the money from her. I set some money aside that she doesn't know about. And then she has to trust when a bill pops up, or when an emergency situation pop up, let's just say break down on the side of the highway and for some reason all four tires blow at the same time. How that happens, I don't know. But
I'm going to expect him as the working partner to have the money.
To handle that, right? And so when a situation like that happens and it's just like, we need $1,200 to fix it right now.
And I'm going to go like this.
Right. She has to trust that whatever it is I've been doing, that $1,200 is there,
right?
And it's and we're gonna be able to take care of that situation, whether she knew the money was available or not.
And likewise, he should still expect that I get some understanding about myself.
Right, so I don't have to always hide money.
Right.
It shouldn't be at some point it shouldn't be me hiding money from you.
Right.
And more so hey babe, we're gonna try to save, or I'm gonna try to save, or however you want to phrase it.
Right.
Save a couple $100 this month.
Right.
So I'm putting this aside, don't touch it. At some point we have to graduate to that point, as opposed to let me sneak $10 out real quick,
right.
you know. So but again, that's an example of the whole trust thing, trust versus truth. The expectation is the truth on one end, but on the other end, the expectation is trust.
Right.
Or the expectation is truth and the reality is trust. It's not necessarily that I'm truthful, but you have to trust that what I'm doing is in our best interest.
Right.
Right. So yeah, but expectations, I mean, that was a whole lot, and again, kind of went on a little bit of a tangent.
That's okay.
But
I go on tangents all the time.
Right. But the point of it is knowing your expectations and coming together and discussing those expectations openly and honestly, and identifying what I'm looking for, what you're looking for, where we can meet at, and how we can bridge some of those gaps.
Right. And we touched on it a little bit about how roles and expectations can possibly negatively impact the relationship.
Right.
Those deal breakers, those things that I feel like I expect this thing, you know, I feel as though it's the man's role, or I feel as though it's the woman's role to do X, Y, and Z, to pull my chair out, to open the door for me, to, you know, we had talked about going in the house and making sure everything's okay, you know, warming the car up for us.
Right.
A lot of people don't even think about that one, but I think about that one when it's cold outside. Warming the car up for us, you know, stuff like that. And I feel as though sometimes we have that roles and expectations, and they become deal breakers. And then it's just like, I can't be with you because you don't do this. And it's just like, well, you just gave up a really good partner.
Right.
For something that isn't necessarily, I'm not going to say all of them, but some things that we have as deal breakers sometimes causes us to forfeit a relationship with somebody who is solid, who's going to bring to the relationship those solid foundations of trust, honesty, compassion, consistency, you know, loyalty, all of those things, because of, well, he doesn't necessarily pull my chair out for me. Right.
And on that note, it's kind of like with the both the roles and the expectations, but the expectations especially, much like you have to come to the table with your partner or with your potential partner to discuss, you have to come to the table with yourself and be honest with yourself about these expectations, and really kind of like self-analyze and say, are my expectations realistic expectations? What's the foundation of this expectation? What is it rooted in, right? So again, like you said, something as simple as opening the car door for me, or pulling out my chair for me. If I'm so, not that that's a bad expectation, that's a good expectation. Chivalry, you know, chivalry is not dead. But if I'm so set on these chivalrous actions, but male or female, if I'm so set on these chivalrous actions that I'm willing to throw away.
Women have chivalry actions.
Chivalrous.
Wording is hard, guys.
No, yeah, like women can be chivalrous as well.
Okay, we'll get to that because I don't know any.
Sure.
He looked at me as if he just like lost 10 points of respect for me.
But no, like, but either way, you know, if you're so pressed on these acts of grandeur that you lose sight of the person because you're focused on the act or the action, then that's a negative thing too. And with that same thing, and I hope I'm not talking a whole lot, right? But with that same thing, we have to also be cognizant and be mindful of like I said, where are our expectations and where are our character traits rooted from, as well as our partner. And I think we use this example sometime this weekend, whatever. Okay. But if I'm a fast talker, right? I mean, I talk a million miles a minute, blah, 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 like if that's me talking, and you're kind of like, no, let's take our time. What is it that we have to say? And you can't, I may have been trained to talk like that or adapted that because of something in my childhood. It doesn't have to be anything bad or traumatizing or whatever, but that just may have been how, you know, my parents and my siblings, aunts and uncles, friends, whatever, everyone talk. And so you adopt that trait. And then
I'm just thinking about the conversation.
Right, yeah. And then I adopt that trait, right? And then so for you, you're like, I can't understand what you're saying. We can't be together if you can't slow down what you're saying. That might be a little bit extreme.
Right.
Like, especially if everything else is just like, oh, you know, we hit this and this and this and this and this. And this is the greatest relationship ever, but he talks too fast.
Right.
Like, you may have to say, okay, why are you talking so fast? And can I live with the fast talking? Maybe I need to speed up a little bit. It may not be he's talking too fast.
Right.
I may need to speed up. Right. So, you know, again, an example, but just to say we have to be willing to kind of self-analyze and see where our things are coming from, our expectations and character traits, flaws, whatever are coming from. Right. But also do the same with our partner. Give them that respect and give them that
same
room,
grace.
that same grace to learn. Hey, what is it about? Why do you do this thing? Not just what are you doing, but why do you do it? Why is this important to you?
Yeah, because a good example of that. He didn't give the real. I
didn't give the real example.
The real example that we discussed, but the example that came to mind was, you know, that I always use when we were talking to our friends. I used to express myself
at a high volume
here especially when I was upset. Here, he would be like, "Nope, not gonna deal with that," and just on mute.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I do it when I was, you know, a counselor in the school system. I would do the exact same thing. I can't talk to you until you turn your volume down, till you stop doing all the sobbing and crying, and I can't understand you. So technically I learned that from him. But I would raise my voice, and then I would expect him to have a conversation with me and communicate with me about the feelings that I was having.
Not that I was having.
That I was having.
Right.
And it's just like, okay, now I have to step back and examine myself. Because if all the time I'm up here, and when I'm up here and he goes to mute, then I'm looking at him in my furiousness, as in, why you not talking to me? But I have to examine myself and say, okay, what am I doing that's causing him?
That triggers this behavior.
Right. That triggers this behavior, and I'm not getting the results that I expect.
Right.
So therefore, I had to examine myself and practice to reduce my volume. I can still be upset. I can still be hurt if the actions calls for being hurt or disappointed or whatever you may have it. But I expect him, you know, to communicate with me. So therefore, I have to examine myself and reduce or change how I communicate my feelings to him. So my expectations to him when I'm upset and we're having an issue is to communicate with me. But his expectations for me was to talk to him as if he had, you know, I had sense.
Right.
I had sense. Maybe. a little bit. It's like,
right.
But yeah, those expectations go both ways, and sometimes we have to adjust our actions and behaviors,
right,
in order to get the expectations that we want.
Right, and that's kind of what I was alluding to with the whole self-analyze, understand where.
I like transparency moments. So
yeah, you're good. But that's what we're talking about with the whole self-analyzing, learning yourself and being honest with yourself and saying, hey, where is this character trait coming from? Where is this expectation coming from? What is it rooted in?
Right.
And is this something that's necessary? You know what I'm saying? Is this really a deal breaker or not a deal, or is this something that's really mandatory in my relationships?
Right.
Or is this something that like, again, real quick thing, my dad always bought my mom flowers on Friday, and so if a man don't bring me flowers on Friday, that's it.
Right.
Well, that worked for your parents. Doesn't necessarily work for you.
Right.
So, it's like understanding what those things are rooted in and why you expect what you're expecting.
And maybe you don't you expect it originally every Friday.
Right.
But maybe you can, say, babe, I really love tulips.
Right.
I really love tulips. And I would love for you to bring me some tulips sometimes.
And then he may just say, it's either tulips or Amazon. And then you have to decide, which one do you want? Do you want the tulips or do you want the Amazon? Can you live with one? It may not be something that you should fight about. It really, just may not.
It really shouldn't be. Honestly, that example anyway. It really shouldn't be, because I could take some of my Amazon money and go buy some tulips.
That's the whole point. But
I expect tulips. I'm going to go get some.
I'm going to go get some tulips, right? But anyway, all that being said, we thank you guys for being here.
Yeah.
Manage those roles and expectations, right?
Yep.
Don't let the roles define you. Don't let the expectations block you
from having a beautiful relationship.
Right, from your blessing that is love, that is marriage.
Yes.
Sure. Anyway, if you're new here, make sure you make sure you subscribe. Like, share, comment. And
let us know, what do you expect, or what are some roles and expectations actually that you've been taught that either you agree with or disagree with. Right. Let us know. This is a good conversation. We might have to,
circle back around.
Yeah, revisit this.
Come back around to this one. But yeah, until next week, this has been All Things Marriage.
Thanks for joining.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bam, 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 bam.